Hello.
Hi.
Hello. How you doing?
Thanks very much for coming and chatting. Well, the thing was, because you were sat here with brilliant comedian James Acaster.
Brilliant comedian James Acaster, yeah.
And you are brilliant as well.
Yeah,
but we were sat over there. But we were trying to give you a bit of space because you think that all their artists are probably breathing.
No, we were just chatting about Prometheus.
Prometheus?
Yeah.
Did you break some new ground?
No. It came out on Friday.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it was awful.
Not good.
I saw it at the IMAX, which is just down the road.
And is it in IMAX 3D?
Yeah, and that's the best thing about it, because we had good seats, and it's huge, and it fills your entire field of vision, and visually it's amazing, but there's absolutely no characters, all the dialogue is atrocious. It's just, I was gutted, I was absolutely gutted. I just thought it was...
Because you were looking forward to it, weren't you?
I think that's the most I've looked forward to a film since maybe The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't reading any reviews, I wasn't reading any, even watching trailers for it, and denying myself all the little bits and pieces, and then you watch it and you just think, oh god, Ridley, why'd you do it? There's nothing, the only thing if you're going to go to the cinema to see it, you should go and see it in IMAX 3D, because it's really good 3D, and it looks visually amazing, but it's just rubbish.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think IMAX is the best way to see a 3D film, isn't it?
Unless you're sat at the side.
Right, no, that's not
you
good.
spend the whole time doing that.
But actual, just normal 3D, I can't, it just gives me a bit of a headache.
Yeah, I went to see The Avengers in 3D.
Yeah.
And I thought the 3D was rubbish. The film's good, but we would... you come out of it with a headache, and also it's quite distracting, because you're looking around at bits that really shouldn't...
Well, that's the thing I found with Pirates. Have you seen Pirates?
The
Aardman thing. Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Well, because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
The 3D's gonna draw your attention to one bit of it.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Because I really like the Green Hornet in 3. I really like the 3D in the Green Hornet, because they were all like cardboard cutouts. Yeah. Apparently that's bad 3D, but I really like the way they did that, because it was kind of stylistic. Where there'd be something happening here and it looked really flat, but 3D's rubbish, really.
Not good, and I think it'll be something that will pass. And
I hope so.
Well, yeah. Anyway, comedy, Nick.
Comedy.
Well, first, I mean, you're back in Edinburgh this year.
Yeah.
With a new show.
Yes.
What's it called?
I'm writing it. My show this year is called This Means War. And it's coming together quite slowly, but it is coming together. I think I'm quite excited about it.
It'll be good.
It's just trying to do something different from. I did a show in 2010 called Keep Hold of the Gold.
Yeah.
Which was quite surprising. Surprisingly, it did really well.
Yeah.
In terms of the fact that I went into Edinburgh and no one had really ever heard of me, and then after Edinburgh, I started doing telly and stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
I did Russell Howard, I think, in the November after August.
2010. That was.
2010, and then. But I'd done Edinburgh for 5 years in a row before that point, and so Keep Hold of the Gold was really going to be my last show in Edinburgh. And I was going to have a break, because I just wasn't expecting anyone to come and see it, and I was just like, well, I'll do it because I want to do it and for fun. But there was no career ladder, or there wasn't any ulterior motive to it really. It was just to do a show and have fun and do that, and it went down really well.
So it totally came out of the blue.
Totally out of the blue.
Went so well.
I was literally going to have a break.
And was it because it was like a show you were really proud of? Was it?
I wasn't really.
Was it different to what you'd done before, or?
It was my first hour.
Oh right.
But it was my first hour of stand-up. But I'd written plays and things like that in the past, and I'd done mixed bills where I'd done like 20 minutes or compared or something. And I did my double acts before then, but it was my first full hour. The year before I did sort of an hour called Bad Things Happen in Trees, but Do you want the history?
You can. So, okay. So your first show
in 2009, I did a show called Bad Things Happen in Trees. I was meant to do a 3-hander with 2 other comedians.
Yeah.
But they dropped out at the last minute.
Okay.
And I wasn't allowed to cancel the time slot.
Right.
So I had to fill an hour somehow. So I wrote about 45 minutes of poetry and music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I got a guest on every day because I didn't want it to count as my first hour because I'd written it in a week. And so I had a guest on every day, and then when I started doing it at festivals after Edinburgh, I didn't bother having any guests, and it ended up ballooning to an hour or just over an hour. So when I did Keep Hold of the Gold, I just thought, right, well, if I'm going to do an hour, I've already done 45 minutes. There's no point taking a step back, so I'll just do an hour, see how that goes. So I did that, and I wrote like a whole new, like Bad Things Happen in Trees was like a collection of stuff, bits and pieces that I'd done over the years. And Keep Hold of the Gold was just brand new, everything. So I wasn't necessarily proud of it. I was more like, oh, I've done it.
Yeah.
But then halfway through it, I began thinking, actually, this is a good show. And then by the end of it, kind of like Daniel Kitson had come to see it, and Jimmy Carr, and it was just like, oh wow, what if,
you were right.
If they like it? Do you know what I mean?
If they like it,
then it must be amazing.
You must be the best comedian.
It must be the best comedian that ever lived. And so when I did Dare to Dream last year, that was really just I'll take what I kind of did with Keep Hold of the Gold and just make it bigger and more kind of, make because I do music, so I'll make it sound good, and because before I just my friend Rob played guitar in Keep Hold of the Gold, so when we did Dare to Dream, I got a keyboardist to come in and fill the sound out a bit more, and make it more like an experience. We had a smoke machine, and we had really loud music, and people were kind of
it was a proper event.
It was like a proper event. When like one guy came, the best thing anyone said was they said coming out of your show was like coming out of the saw ride at Thorpe Park. And it was just like, well, that was brilliant. But because the previews were so difficult last year, the show ended up being really angry. So
it was quite, I mean, I saw you at the Edinburgh, Richard Herring's Edinburgh Fringe podcast. You did a slot in there, and that it was very much because a lot of people there wouldn't have seen you before. So it was quite here's Nick Helm shouting, which was great. But did the whole show sort of have that feel to it?
Well, the whole show is, I think, from an audience point of view, from what I understand, because I was never, I was on stage.
You were there. Yeah.
But from an audience point of view, I think people found it scary. But they found it quite, because it was a small room. And
where was it?
It was at the beside. So it's not like it's seated 80, but they're all like cramped in, and they come in and it was dark, and it was like we filled the porta cabin full of smoke, so that when they came in they were feeling around for their seats, and then I come out and I just literally start screaming in people's faces and attack them, and they found it. I just thought that's funny, but because that's not what you pay for. You pay to be entertained, and then it's terrible entertainment. So it's the worst form of entertainment. And you force people to do audience participation, which no one likes doing anyway. But they have no choice.
You did that, did you?
So I did that for Dare to Dream.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of a difficult show to write, but because of how difficult it was to write and put together, and we had some really awful previews, and that kind of shaped. Because in Keep Hold of the Gold, I did a bit of shouting, but it was actually quite friendly and more pathetic. And Dare to Dream was just really kind of intense. Yeah. But that's because I had awful previews, and I was really frustrated. I was really frustrated because you're just there going, I can't tell from the previews whether I've got good or bad material, and now it's too late and I've got to go to Edinburgh. And
this is the show.
It is what it is, and I think through sheer performance, it elevated a lot of the weaker material to be in, and then it got nominated.
Which was a surprise, was it?
It's just everything that's ever happened to me is a surprise. It's mental.
But I mean, was it a point where you were thinking, oh, I'm not sure where this show's going, and then suddenly you get this nomination?
It was. I wasn't sure if it was even a good show after the first week. And then all of a sudden, we didn't even have a show until the very first performance. I had bits and pieces, and then in the car I was writing the show. Like Lincoln. We had. Like I write it's like a jigsaw puzzle. So you have I've got an opening song and I've got a closing song, and then I've got like a couple of poems and I've got some songs in the middle, and then there's got to be something that connects it. And I don't know what order it will all go in. But once I've got the material, I just sit down and I go, right, well that'll go in and that'll go in.
And then, is that done like on paper or just on stage? I'll
have because poems and songs are written, and scripted, and then material will be like I've written Army on my arm,
right?
Because I want to write some material about, because I've got a show about war, so I'll write something about. I'll have an idea of something about an army, and I'll go on and I'll start talking about it, and then it will evolve over previews into a piece of material. But I don't ever write material down, but songs are really structured, and poems. And
they kind of have to be.
But I literally didn't have a show, and then in terms of I'd pay to see that. I was embarrassed. And then we did the very first preview day in Edinburgh, where I met my technician for the first time the day before.
Yeah.
And we had smoke, and we had a glitter ball, and we had lighting, and then an audience turned up, and it was just like, oh right, well we've got to do something. I literally just pulled the show out of my arse on the first day, but I recorded it and I watched it back, and I was like, okay, well it's a bit flabby, but that's basically what we'll do.
There is something there, yeah.
And then Edinburgh was, and I was really ill for the first 2 weeks in Edinburgh last year, and I thought I was old and I couldn't do the show. I couldn't do Edinburgh shows anymore. I just thought,
you were past it.
I was past it. I'm past my prime, and it would take me like an hour to recover from the show every day.
Oh God!
I was really ill, and I didn't realise it. I just thought.
I just
thought I was old, and then at one point I got over whatever it was. It was like a virus or a flu or something that you're just completely almost debilitating. So I'd do the show, and then I'd go home to bed and I'd sleep for 12 hours, and I'd get up and I'd do the show, and I just thought, oh, I've really fucked it, and then I got better, and then I realised, I was just ill, and then all these good things happened.
Everything was fine.
But when we did it at the Soho Theatre in London, and we'd had a bit of distance from it, and
you've had a fresh face,
and I was healthy, and I knew what I was doing. When we reapproached the show, I just think when we did it in Soho, that was the show that I wanted to do in Edinburgh.
Yeah,
Edinburgh was good. It turned out Edinburgh was good. It was better than I could have hoped for. But when we did Soho, because it was less pressure as well, because you do feel pressure when people are.
Well, there's the reviewers there, that you're under constant scrutiny.
And we were having judges in every day. I don't like to know about reviewers or judges, but you got the impression.
But you get the feeling.
Like my PR lady would phone me up and she'd say, "How was the show today?" And I'd be like, "Oh, it went well," and she went, "Good." And it'd be like, "All right, well, there was definitely someone in. Definitely someone was in today." So because. It built from Keep Hold of the Gold, and it built Bad Things Happen to Trees, and then Keep Hold of the Gold, and then Death Change. So this show, the aim for this show,
or is it?
I think it's kind of almost like I think Keep Hold of the Gold was about being broken-hearted, and I think Dead's Dream was about being angry, and I think this one is called This Means War. So I suppose it will be quite angry, and that's what kind of people from last. If you're building an audience, I suppose you kind of want to give them something that they can. That you're doing the same thing, but you're changing it.
Yeah.
So I think this one is more about regret and missed opportunities, but I think there's going to be a lot of music in this one, and in a bigger venue. So I want to fill the stage.
Yeah, you kind of, there's different demands, I suppose. If you've got a bigger stage, you need to just deliver something more.
It's brilliant. You just think it's really fun because you just think, how do I want to fill the stage? What do I want? This is my hour.
Yeah.
If I'm doing if I'm doing 20 minutes in a gig, you go, right, well, I'm working for them. The audience haven't paid to see me. Mm-hmm. They've paid for comedy.
I'm an aspect of.
I'm a part of the night. But if you're doing an hour, you go, this is my hour. What do I want to do? And then you can imagine anything you want and do it.
And I mean, you've got a certain responsibility to the audience because they're paying. But then at the end of the day, it's you.
But they've paid to see you. So there is kind of people were, when we did Dare to Dream, people were running out of the show halfway through, 5 minutes in.
They were running.
On one of the performances we did, a man within the first 5 minutes got up. He said, I can't handle this," and he ran out. And then about 10 minutes later, these kids were talking all the way through it. And when my back was turned, they ran out. And then these 3 older ladies, they ran out. And by the end of it, I didn't have a front row anymore. And it's just like, I couldn't.
I mean, do you feel bad when that happens? Are you kind of...
Well, they've missed the joke.
Right, yeah.
Because I can't... The aim isn't to upset. I don't do offensive material. The aim isn't to offend people or upset people. It's a bit of fun, and you've missed the joke. But it feels amazing to have done a show that is on, under the comedy section in the Fringe Guide, and it had people running out in terror. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'll put that on the CV. That's great, Yeah.
But this one shouldn't be so much like that.
I don't think so. I think this one's more. It's all just meant to be fun, and it depends how it comes together. Like the tone of it can change just through the way you perform it. But I think this is because there's more people as well, and it's going to be less intense because they're less close. Well, I did that last year. I did an intense show because of the venue we're in. And this year we've got a bigger venue, so it'll be a different.
Yeah.
It'll be, but also within the first 3 or 4 days when you're in Edinburgh, the show, the venue kind of dictates what sort of show it's going to be. So you kind of like get into it, and then you go, all right, well I can use the venue like this, and I can run up there, and I can do.
Its limitations.
Yeah, and you know how to work the audience, and So there's this is like a learning period with every show that you take up, especially if you're writing a show specifically for Edinburgh and specifically for a venue. If you're writing a touring show and Edinburgh's a part of the tour, then I think that's a different experience to what I get, which is I write an hour for Edinburgh and then I can barely use it ever again, and it's just kind of I can do a week at the Soho, but it is literally, if you don't see it in Edinburgh, you're probably not going to go and see it in Luton, because that's it. I can't tour it, which is ridiculous. Like Dare to Dream is literally nothing. You want to write an hour and then cannibalise it for your set.
Yeah.
But Dare to Dream, it's just like there's nothing.
It's a complete piece.
Yeah, it's got a story, and it's got like a subplot.
Yeah.
Not like a story. It's not like a narrative piece, but there's there's subtext, and everything is kind of related to the theme of aspirations and dreams. So war is just kind of like, everything is about conflict and pain and agony, but and struggle, and that's kind of what This Means War is going to be about, or is about. But it is,
Now I saw a Channel 4 thing. Is it Comedy Blaps?
Comedy Blaps.
Blaps, yeah. Now, is that quite a recent thing? I only saw it the other day. Although I'd seen the poem before, but
I did that at Richard Herring, didn't I?
Exactly, yeah.
The Comedy Blaps. What happened with that? Just from having a good Edinburgh really last year.
Was that from last year's Edinburgh show?
No. Well, I think what happened was Channel 4 came to see me in Edinburgh and then invite me in, and they said, we'd like to work with you on these blabs, because they used to do comedy labs,
right?
But where you do a half hour,
yeah.
And they're trying something different now. So they give you a budget, and you've got to produce like 12 minutes worth of material.
Yeah.
And so I decided that but Channel 4 don't produce stuff in house, so they have like outside production. So I wanted to work with Baby Cow.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I'm a massive Steve Coogan fan, and Henry Normal, and just. And then they say, who do you want to work with? And you go, I've always wanted to work with Baby Cow. And they came to see my show. Like Henry Normal sat on the front row of my show. And I came out, and the first thing I saw was Henry Normal. I thought, oh, thanks, front row, that's brilliant. So I went in, and Baby Cow produced it, and Channel 4 did it, and I took. So I think. What were they? There was I Fancy the Pants Off For You was the first black, and we took that from Keep Hold of the Gold, and then the poem came from Bad Things Happen in Trees, and the 15 Reasons one, which came out today, that came from Dare to Dream. And we kind of like, is there a link? And like the first song is about meeting someone and fancying someone, the second song is about imagining your life with them, and then the last song is about the end of a relationship. So it kind of has like a 3-part arc. Yeah. But yeah, it's just.
But it's quite nice that it can live on. Sort of bits of your show that you kind of think are only for Edinburgh, or to a wide audience as well, not just a comedy club audience.
Yeah, I think so. And we work really hard on them. My friend John Leash directed it, and we worked with a producer called Ali Karen, and she produced it, and we all work really hard on it. And we've had really good response from it. I've just worked so hard on it. I worked hard on them, and I'm just really proud of them. But I don't know what that means, but I just think that they're good.
Yeah.
But in terms of like moving stuff around and being able to tell a story by taking bits and pieces from different shows, not that I don't think anyone's really overanalyzed it like the way that we overanalyzed it when we were making it.
Yeah.
But we definitely said, well, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's kind of like there's some vague plot there if you want to follow it through like that, and if not, they work as individual standalone pieces.
But then also, I mean, if you've put so much thought into something like that, sort of someone watching it, they're not analysing it in the same way, but it shines through that it's something you've worked really hard on.
Well, we just wanted them to be good,
Yeah, exactly.
And you just like go, I don't. If you're going to spend, you only have a certain amount of time in your life between August and August. You've probably got about 6 months. I normally have a little break in September.
Okay.
And then in October, I start thinking about what I want to do with that 6-month block. And this is the first year that I've ever had the opportunity to kind of go, I want to make something, and have people say, well, we will fund that. And so you want whatever you work on to be as good as you can make it. And so we did these 12 we spent 7 months making 13-14 minutes worth of online footage.
But then I think it's worth it to concentrate on sort of and make that good,
Yeah, but at the end of the day, when everything is over and you don't have a career anymore, or you're dead or whatever, all you've got really to like speak as a performer is the work that you've done, and that's your legacy, really. So I overthink things like this, but I just want everything I do to be as good as I can make it, and I think that when you bear, not that anyone would ever do this because they weren't part of the process, but when you take into account the limitations that you have with budget and time, and like we had enough budget to film for 2 days, so everything that we did, we had to plan it, to the tiniest detail, and then we had 2 days to get it all filmed. And when you're filming, you run out of time to do things, so you're making compromises. And that's all part of the creative process. It's always about compromising, but whether you can live with that.
Yeah.
And I just think, and sometimes because of all the compromises you make, you end up with a better. It's like the difference between Star Wars and Phantom Menace. And George Lucas had to compromise all the way through making Star Wars, but when he made the Phantom Menace, he was a multi-millionaire that could make anything he wanted, and no one said no to him. And Phantom Menace is rubbish. And so when you compromise, that can sometimes bring out the best thing, because you've got to be creative the way you think about it. And I love that. I think it's great.
No, I think that's an interesting thing. That actually a lot of creativity comes from that, finding an alternative thing. You can't do that, so you've got to do something else.
So find out another way of doing it.
Yeah, instead of just being let to your own devices and do something. Yeah.
Exactly. I had a piece of coconut matting on my chest in Dare to Dream, which had LED lights in it that said my name.
Okay. Yeah,
and what I originally wanted was to have it stitched into my jacket, so that I was wearing a jacket that had my name in lights on it, and it was meant to be kind of glitzy. And in the end, I didn't have enough time. My dad made this coconut matting thing with a bit of string around it, and I didn't have time to stitch it into my jacket, so I just wore it around my neck, and that ended up being a joke. Do you know what I mean? It was an accident, but it ended up being a joke, and then and the show was better for it. If I'd have got what I wanted, there wouldn't have been a joke there, or there wouldn't have been as great a joke there. But because I didn't get what I wanted, I had to think my way around it and go, actually, this is better. So sometimes it's just about working with what you've got.
Yeah, I mean, you can see productions that have been given too much money.
Well, like Prometheus, Alien was made by Ridley Scott doing his second ever, I think it was his second film, and the producers were standing over his shoulder saying, "You haven't got time to do that, you haven't got time to do that," and it was horrific for him. And Alien is, it's just it's a masterpiece.
But it's built on the pressure.
Yeah, and Prometheus was Ridley Scott going, "Oh, I'm producing it this time, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do." And you just go, if no one is there to say no to you, and if no one is there to make you rethink what you're doing, and it's just you and you've got free reign, then it's not necessarily going to be better or worse, but it's going to be a different product, and it's good. It's good. I mean, especially when it's a team effort like the Flaps were, and there's conflicts within that, and you're making compromises, and you're saying, right, well, if we can't do that, can we do this? And
it's a discussion.
It's a discussion.
It's a different,
and you're all kind of trying to make something good, but. So I think that creates the conflict within working in a group of people, creates something that's different from just having a dictatorship.
Yeah, I think that's
that's good. I think that's what I mean. But then when you do an Edinburgh show, Edinburgh shows are always about compromise. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this.
Because you've got your space, haven't you? You've been given your space.
Yeah.
You've got a budget.
Well, you don't have a budget. I mean, for Edinburgh,
the budget is what you can afford.
The budget is literally what you can pay out of your pocket.
What you're not losing.
Yeah, exactly.
What you can afford to lose. Yeah.
So it's just kind of. And then all the compromise is just trying to get as close to what you've got in your head on stage. And it's exciting.
Yeah. Brilliant, Nick. Thank you so much. Yes.
No, thank you. It's lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.